Hi everyone, we're here with Kayla Rose from Down the Diets. Today we decided to make an amazing video for all of you. It got quite long, so we cut it into two parts. This will be part two, so if you haven't seen part one, then check that out on Kyla's channel. The link will be below. Let's get to it.
As a teenager, was in a very dysfunctional relationship, caused a lot of insecurities. I got into that relationship, rewind, because of a traumatic sexual harassment kind of event, led me into that. Then into that, you try to get that person's approval. So then he was always into bodybuilding, so then I got into the fitness modeling and bikini competing to try to win his approval, And then, of course, inevitably that led to the bulimia. After I quit that, I was like, fuck all this. This sucks. This is miserable. This is a lie. And then, binging and purging, which then led to my quest to heal myself and gain back control, because I felt like I was a failure and a glutton and I couldn't control myself anymore. So then that led to a different kind of orthorexia, raw veganism and cleansing and fasting and, just fruitarianism and just ultra pure and clean. And then, that went on. And so different stages, we try all these things in an attempt to gain control. So then it leads you into recovery, hopefully. What are some of the biggest techniques that you use to help you get through all of this? I mean, to have these, were they just aha moments along your journey that as you were going, you were just these are realizations? Or, I know that's a difficult question, but
I'm not sure if it's answering the question exactly, but I did have one moment. Usually, most of my recovery just went sort of gradually. There were some gradual changes along the way, but there was one moment that really did make a big difference for me, and that was when I got some medical results back, and they really were not that good, not good at all. And my parents were very, very worried, and they were also called into hospital, and I could literally read the worry from their faces, and that really got to me. So that for me was a big turning point, because I had wanted to change, but I found it really difficult to. So I had chosen recovery. I just had no idea how to go about it.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was really determined to find a way.
And then, so what did you do from there? Where did you start? And where did that shift happen? Because some people, they don't know how to start recovery. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, for me, this was after my relapse, actually. And I I'd sort of half-heartedly gone about recovery before, and everything was relatively stable, but things were still difficult. Now, after this relapse, I thought, well, I really want to get out of this mess. I don't want to stick with my eating disorder, and I looked up some treatments because I had been trying to increase my portions and gain weight, because I knew that was a big thing. Once you gain weight, your mentality changes also. But my weight wasn't really budging, even though my portions had increased by that point. So I sought inpatient treatment in Belgium at that point. And it wasn't perfect, the inpatient treatment, but it did help establish a new routine and put on a little bit of weight. And even that made a big difference, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you go in there and it takes away the control and the stress of having to prepare your meals and worry about all of this stuff. You have someone helping you. I never went to inpatient, but I seriously, I highly advise it to a lot of people because it can be so helpful. I mean, if you can afford it,
I think it's a great way to take the stress off of having to make the decisions yourself. So honestly, it's not such a bad thing, and it's not a sign of weakness at all.
Exactly. Yes, it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength to be able to admit that there's something wrong and you need help. That takes a lot of character. You're putting your pride aside, your ego aside, and you're like, listen, like, I want to do something about this. I need help. Like, that's admirable. Not a lot of people can do that. So that's really awesome. And then, so, okay, a lot of people, you go into inpatient and then you go home. So how do you maintain that once you get home and you're by yourself and you're back in your environment that you were before, and it could be triggering and all this stuff?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, as soon as they got home, they lost a lot of weight. That's the stories you heard every single time, and people were telling me, you're going to go home and you're just going to lose a bunch of weight. And I told them, no, I'm not. And I didn't even go home afterwards. I went on holiday. But that put everything, all the responsibility on me. And I told myself, well, I'm choosing for recovery. So I'm going to come back from this holiday and I'm going to be either on the same weight or on a higher weight to show people that I can do it. So that's the mindset I took. And then I mostly tried to eat as much as I could in order to prove my point. But yeah, I think just keeping your goals in mind is very important. And then from there on, I think you can keep yourself on the right path.
Oh my gosh, yes. Seriously, because that's why I like journaling. It's like, you need to document this, as a reminder, like, why are you doing this? What do you want out of life? Like, is this worth it? Like, do you want to live like this forever? Like, really define your standards, your goals, like why you want to get out of this and why you want to recover. And then so you can remind yourself when the doubts and the fears and the guilt start coming in. It's so easy to just forget about why we're doing this and get caught up in the moment. And then that sets up for a relapse or, something to go wrong. So it's so important to keep us on track, keep focused. Because this is a long journey. You're not just going to be like, oh, okay, like a month I've been doing good. Or maybe it will, but, it's not just overnight. You make one effort and then you're good to go for the rest of your life. Like there's a lot of maintenance that goes into this too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even when things are going well, it's important to be mindful that a bad day can still occur. It doesn't mean you're relapsing, but it does have, like, a bad day will occur, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's, okay, a lot of people think once you're recovered, that, like, life's gonna be perfect. And it's like, no. Okay, you'll face something new. Now you have to, like, work on this about yourself. You're just peeling the layers. Like, life is a lifelong journey. You're not just gonna be recovered and then you're never gonna have any bad days. Because that's just not realistic. We're human. This is a human experience. There's the ups and downs, and this is a really empowering process, though, to then be able to handle other things better, maybe. Because there's always going to be those ups and downs, and that's like another thing people say. Well, is the binging going to stop and then stop for good? So then, if they have a slip up and they binge like 2 months later or longer, even a year later, and then they're like, "Oh shit! Like I'm a failure." Like. And it's like, no, you just have to assess. Maybe, there's more stress or you took it a little too far on the exercise again or, something like that. That's life.
Yeah, or even if there's nothing really underlying it, I feel like people that have never had an eating disorder will sometimes undereat or overeat. So it's completely normal.
Exactly. And they don't think of it as like a huge binge, it's just like, oh, well, I'm on my period, or I have extra stress, or, there's life stressors in so many different ways. So yeah, that's a good point to make. It's not just people with eating disorders that have a binge or something, or feel down and they have a down day. It happens all the time.
Exactly. And I think one last topic that I'd like to bring up, because we've been talking for a while.
I know.
Because people are afraid of binging or of eating bad foods or, all the like, they turn to veganism in order to still control their food in a way and to be able to eat big portions and to feel satisfied. So these are some of the reasons that I've heard being expressed. So what do you think about turning to veganism in recovery?
So many things, because like you said, it could be a way to justify, just mask the eating disorder in a new light, and it's really popular nowadays. It's all the craze, and people recommend it, so we trust that, and then we go to it, and we throw out our intuition and how our body is really reacting. And some people, yeah, they do great up front, and then slowly over time, their health may start to decline, and they don't want to see it. So they keep holding on to the dogma or whatever, and they want to hold on. They've believed it for so long that it's hard to see a different way. If you believe something is the one way, the golden ticket to health and wellness, like how it's hard to look outside of that. I don't even know where the shift happened with me, because I was vegan for years, like 4 or 5 years or something. So, yeah, I mean, and then what you say is there's so many different versions. So there's the high carb, low fat, or the low fat, high carb, and these are all restrictions. And I respect the movement of veganism. I really do. I still try to abide by, like, humane living conditions for the animal. That's the main message of it all. But I mean, like, humans' lives are just as important as animals. We're all equal, and if your health is suffering because you're sacrificing it for something else, you are worthy of health. You need to, you need to, if you're craving some eggs, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing either. It's like, oh, one day maybe you're all plant-based because you feel like it. And then the next day you're like, oh, I want some eggs. I'm really craving eggs or some meat or some dairy, It's like, just go with that. It doesn't have to be one way all the time. That's the same with like raw veganism. It's like, oh, I want like a raw smoothie in the morning. Oh, I guess I have to be all raw. Or, oh, I love fruit, so I guess I should be fruitarian. Why does it have to be so extreme? Why can't you have the fruit or the smoothie in the morning, or the plant-based meal in the morning, and then later on have something else that balances that out,
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm not going to argue with the ethics, but I do think veganism, especially in recovery, can be dangerous for your health, so whether mental or physical. And yeah, especially all or nothing thinking is a big thing. Even if you would do it for the right reasons, so for ethical reasons or for the environment, then I think you're already making a difference if you once in a while, for example, replace your regular milk with soy milk, or if you eat meat replacement once in a while and without obsessing over it. I think that's a really big thing. And I also think that in order to do that, for many people, I'm not saying for everyone, but for many people, it might be best to focus on their recovery first before they want to make such big changes to their diet.
Yeah, exactly, because you're already coming from this mindset of like obsession and perfection and like being neurotic. So you can easily take this to the extreme again, veganism or whatever. And so maybe it's not the right time. And especially because your body is so weak and fragile and you need the most amount of energy and nutrients coming in, like a lot all the time. Veganism is pretty restrictive, whether, you want to believe it or not. Like, it's just what it is. It's easier to digest, some of these animal foods, and it's all complete. You don't have to like mix and match and be, because it is, if you want to be successful with veganism, you have to really pay attention to all the nutrients and make sure it's becoming a balance, or else you could easily miss out on something. So, yeah, that could be like a whole video in itself. And yeah, I don't want to like piss anyone off, but at the same time, it has to be talked about. Nobody wants to talk about it because there's this movement going on. If you like criticize the movement, you're this horrible person and you're selfish. And whatever, you're a murderer and all this stuff. And it's like, no, humans are important too. Like, there's equal, so it needs to be talked about, especially people in eating disorders. They'll feel guilty and they'll cling on to this new restrictive diet, and they won't ever get out of the eating disorder. They'll never recover fully because maybe their body really needs more. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
During recovery, it's just important to focus on yourself. This is only temporary, so if after you have fully recovered you still have the same belief, then by all means go ahead. But I think at this point it's important for your own mental and physical health first.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not selfish. I mean, for the first time you're looking out for yourself this whole time being in a disordered eating. So you're finally taking care of yourself for good intentions, and that's okay. Feeling worthy, and you deserve that. So it is a time to look out for yourself. And yeah, eventually. And then I just want to last note on that before we wrap this up is after recovery, or whatever that means, later on into your journey, if you decide, to add back in your new exercise regime or different diet manipulations, not really manipulations, just diet preferences, like what do you like and what do you thrive on, just remember to always keep yourself in check, because a lot of people, whether they think they're 2 years in and they're recovered, they can fall right back into neurotic exercising, restrictive dieting, and any of these behaviors, and it can slip right under our noses, and then we put ourselves right back to the beginning, and then they're like, oh shit, when did this happen? So yeah, just constantly be aware if you ever decide to do any of these things in the future, which you shouldn't. Just be with yourself. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, on that note, there's so much to talk about, and I love talking with you. It's nice to be on the same page and to just spread this message and just to try to help people get their life back. That's really what it is. Get their life back and their freedom back and their quality of life back. So I love what you're doing, and thank you so much for being a voice in this community and movement, and you're helping so many people, and I really appreciate this time talking with you. Hannah has just come out with her book, so where can they find your book?
Wait, I'm gonna get it off the shelf if you mention it. There we go. A few just arrived, so I'm quite happy about that. Well, both Red Ribbons and the prequel are available on Amazon, so we can just put the link in the description and people can find it there.
Awesome. So exciting. I know I still have yet to read it. I need to order it and read it, because what's it about? I mean, I can totally resonate and I really want to read it.
Just Perfect, the first one, is about a girl called Christina that starts to struggle with an eating disorder due to some things that happened at school. And she falls into depression, and it talks about how she struggles to find her way out, but it seems to go rather downhill, and she's really struggling. But yeah, I'm not going to say how it ends, but then the second one follows up from there. And yeah, how she deals with some of the struggles that come up, and the struggles that I think many of the viewers and many other sufferers have also experienced. So I think it's quite a relevant topic, and I think it's good to share it around and to break the stigma that's still somewhat attached to it.
Yes, definitely. And it's so nice to read that kind of stuff in your recovery. You're not alone. You can relate with someone. Someone's been through this and has gotten out of it, and it's inspiring. So, yeah, I can't wait to read it.